You know how I know? It had a thing there that said you're live. That's cool. I don't know what I'm doing. We'll have give it a few seconds, get for people to start coming in. Let me see if I can see chat. Uh no. Can you see chat, Kenny? I can't either. And I really want to see chat. Hold on. I know there's a way. Y'all bear with us. We're yeah, wait a minute. Live chat. There's a live chat option. Okay. There we go. Stevie B just rolled in here. Hey, you see it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Turn it down. You can turn it down and scroll. We're just hanging out. Hey Sharon, we got Kenny with us. Y'all know Ken, Mark D. we we sitting around and talking and what we do sometimes and uh Ken sends me this message out of the blue today and it led to something else and for me to have chill bump. So hey, there's Wendell. So we're gonna I see y'all. You're sitting beside me. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll wait for a few more people getting in here. This is aggravating for people that'll watch later. They're like, get to it. But I want people to be live here. Billy Schilling, what's up, Billy? So thank y'all for coming in. We're not doing an official show, but we're just be like a sharing story time. We've been as y'all know, Ken he loves to do the what's she doing? Honey's over here, y'all. Y'all, if we get interrupted by the dogs, just like I said, this it's just it, it wasn't planned. There's Robert. Hey Robert, Ashes. So, all right. So, kind of what we're going to talk about. Ken, he likes to do the genealogy and looking up the Misty's cutting peppers. We're watching on TV. Is Jr. there? She said we. Hey Jr. Here comes Heather. The whole crew's here. Heather, we just started, so you can get on if you want to. Peyton,
How come you don't look into making these?
like
They
for
put you with the logo.
let me see. Well, we could ask if
It's like 99 cents or something like this.
would y'all like some of these poker chips with Squatch and Holler on them cheap if we could get them made? I mean, not this right here is just what it would look like, but Heather had some. They had some made for a horse show or something, and you know where to get them.
You can get them at different places.
How much are they? Do you know? Okay, yeah, that'd be something cool. But anyway,
Hey.
it's Kenny sitting in the middle of a creek talking to us. So we're going authentic today, Ken. But Ashes, thank you so much, Kenny. We you could if you had an oar, you know what I mean. You could have a little. Anyway, I'm goofy. Y'all. Ashes, thank you so much, man. Y'all are awesome. Ashes won one of my hats, and I hate to say that because Ken bought one of my hats. He's sitting there, and but he's a good dude from over in Arkansas. So here's kind of what we're going to talk about. The whole family's here. The dogs are running around, and we got a good friend Ken on the phone here. So there's Mr. Gary. I'll get started now. So I'm sure it's going to be like squirrel, you know, all over the place. But he likes to do genealogy and everything, and
Hey, no.
He found some things about my family. He said, told me what I needed to do, give him a little bit of information. He went from there, and we I knew that I had it was a 17 late 1700s, Ken, with Lydia, 1780 maybe. And it's far enough back there's no pictures, because there wasn't any photography back then. There might be a drawing, but uh anyway, I had known a little bit about my great 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 grandmother, Lydia Gray Eyes, Sarah. She has, different names, and I got lucky and found some stuff on the internet one time, but it wasn't much. Kenny, on the other hand, comes up and finds out that some of my family, there was actually letters in a wall in an old house, and it was really detailed, wasn't it?
um, like that in the past to that extent where there were actually letters found in the walls of an old house that I think between different family members and the mother and because they had kind of moved apart and separated, so you've got letters back and forth, asking about how they're doing and telling them what's going on, their life and things like that. And you just don't come across stuff like that that's that far back. With very It's very few and far between.
And then Ken comes in, and it gets even wilder. The stuff that he's found, and reading some of those letters. I told Ken, I'm like, all right, first of all, somebody had to find them, somebody had to hide them, somebody had to find them, and then that person had to not throw them away and get them somewhere where they could be recorded. So getting to read how, the lifestyle, their worries, they weren't worried about. There was just a few, and it was surviving, but there didn't seem to be a lot of distractions. Now there might have been a little gossip in the letters, which was cool to see. Yes, where some of my kinfolk they were drinking moonshine because I think they'd made it. And from what I got from it, they were out in the shed, and maybe did they start gambling or something, and somebody got mad. Something happened, and somebody ended up dying. So there was a whole murder trial and all that. I had no clue. Um, and so we had all these weird things happen. One of the first things that got this started was I had known a little bit, just enough, right? Just enough information. So me and Peyton here. That's why I wanted him here. Um, what year was that? You were
It was about 12 years ago, probably.
2016. You graduated, so it was probably like 2013 or 14.
Yeah.
So about 2013 or 14, I had a knee surgery, and he had knee surgery with football, and he was on a, but he recovered, but he was on a recruiting trip to Tennessee, and we left Knoxville and we went to Gatlinburg and on over. Well, we stopped. One of my favorite places on this planet is Cage Cove, and across the hill, Cherokee, North Carolina, and some of that stuff. And I've always felt connected in a way, but I just didn't know anybody. I don't know anything about the culture. And this lady walked past me on this trail. Me and Peyton stopped at this place. We went around and we was petting the pigs and stuff, in the pens. And we went on. I saw a trail, and I looked at Peyton, and I'm like, "Do you see a sign telling us not to go on that trail?" I don't remember. Was there a sign? Mhm. So we took off. We're along this river, beautiful area. We're walking and walking and walking, and we see movement up above in front of us. There was three individuals. There was two young people, a boy and a girl, man and woman, but they were young. She was really pregnant, and the lady. walked by me, and she looked like she was probably full-blooded Cherokee, but she had the grayest eyes I've ever seen. And I stopped in my tracks, and I looked at Peyton, and he didn't know what I was thinking. But I said, "What are y'all doing?" And she said, "We're walking the baby out." I'm like, "Wait, what? Out here in the middle of the woods?" She said, she said, "Yeah." I said, "What happens if she starts giving birth right here?" She said, "I'll take care of it. You know, that's what we do." I'm like, "Okay." And so we were talking, chit chatting, small talk. And I said, "Ma'am, I got to be honest with you. The reason I stopped and talked to you," and I told her, I said, "Lydia, my great 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 grandmother, I don't know much about her, but she was full blooded Cherokee, and her name was Lydia Gray Eyes." And Peyton, what did that lady say?
She's always known who you are, something to that effect.
She smiled. She said, "She's always known who you are." And Peyton almost jumped in the river, and I almost took off running. Kind of, exaggerating, but it was like,
the rock.
oh, I forgot about that, y'all. Let me finish this, and then see this when stuff comes
I
up.
don't remember what part of the story this happened. I know y'all were talking, and it sounded like a big rock was
When a big
flicked
rock,
over in the river, but like
when a big rock is thrown into a deep part of the river or water, and it gets that boom, that sound right there.
but it was so big you could hear it hit the other rocks at the bottom of the river.
It was big.
It went,
and we don't. And you know what? I haven't thought about that in all those years. I forgot about that.
I remember hearing it hit the bottom of the river.
I remember. I remember a big boulder rock. Now there wasn't any hills, so it didn't fall off a hill. You know what I mean? So, but it was just a strange.
Yeah, about that in years. I forgot that.
Then he said he heard it hit the bottom. His hearing's better. So, when she said she's always known who you are, I didn't know what to do. But she was smiling she was smiling with her eyes. She was genuine. And I sat there, we sat there 30, 45 minutes, and we learned more about the Cherokee culture than I'd ever learned my whole life. Nobody ever talked about it. No, matter of fact, Ken, you can tell everybody, even back then in the 1700s, why Lydia and uh, her husband were split up was because the two families didn't approve.
Yeah,
Of
the story that I found about that, Lydia married um when she got married, they had a baby, which was a boy,
Edward.
and his last name was Jet,
Hmm.
and what was his first name was
Edward. Edward.
Edward Jet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the baby's name was Edward Jet.
Hmm.
And the story was that one day, I think they were out maybe having a picnic or something. Um, Best I can remember
I
without
think.
looking back at the story. And the father was doing work or something, or didn't she
Yeah.
go out? Did she go berry picking? Or,
She went to go
yeah,
berry picking and left
yeah,
Edward with her husband, and she
right.
never returned.
And never came back.
Never came back.
And the what they suspected was that some of her family or part of the tribe had came and gotten her because they had been opposed to her marrying him because he was
White
white.
guy. And
Uh-huh.
I think, and I think,
Never heard or saw her again. Never heard from her or saw her
well,
again.
they were talking about that. That lady was talking about. Um, I don't remember what brought it up, but she was talking about they were trying to keep the bloodline pure
well, it's
over
what
there.
she was talking about was like Cherokee, North Carolina. You have people that live there and been living there forever. Then you have, and
No, what it was, she said there was a big problem with the girls and boys running out and marrying people from They were just marrying not Cherokee people,
So
and the tribe was getting thinned
what
out by it.
and what they what they were doing, they said that there were so many people that were kin to each other that they would go to Oklahoma to find a mate, or they would come from Oklahoma there to find a mate. And we actually walked up on a young man. They were taking wedding photos at the Cherokee Casino later, and y'all, he was greasy like me, and he didn't look like he was wanted to be there. He looked like he's out of place. He had a tux on. He looked like his mind was somewhere else.
I don't know where his mind was at.
His bride to be was an absolute princess. She was gorgeous. I looked at Peyton, and the two moms were there, and they were proud, and they were taking pictures, and we stood back, and oh, you can come on through. I walked up to that young man, and I said, "Congratulations, sir." He's grinning like, "Thank you." Peyton said, "I can't believe you did him like that." I said, "Well, man, man needs congratulations." But so, um, yeah, she was telling us about different parts of tradition and stuff like that. Her husband had passed away, and she got into some of the um, law, maybe, or some of the tradition that happened, and it was very enlightening. Loved the conversation, but I did have goosebumps with the. It wasn't. It was what she said, but it's how she said it too. She looked me dead in the eye, knowingly, like, I mean, it was wild. So anyway, so Ken's been looking up all this stuff. He's found names that I had no idea. Murder trial
Pictures of that I
pictures
sent you.
in Bedford, Jet, which Bedford County is right here next door. Which I know where the name come from, but anyway, uh, Nathan Bedford Forrest was born in this county. Um, so the pictures of the granddad, the shape of the face, I even saw it. It looked like me, but like 30, 20 years from now. So let's say. So, but y'all, something happened today that the Kumbo says the chili bumps. I really didn't know how to react at first, but for today, the first time ever, Kenny found some information. Can anybody guess what Lydia's husband's name, first name was, or name, not last name? Anybody in the chat that's been listening, can you guess what her husband's name was after listening to what we just said? We'll wait and see if you can. But
You
when
got any hats left to send the winner?
you gonna autograph
Send
that
him,
one and send it to him?
send him a poker. No, I'm gonna hold on to mine. You send him a poker chip.
I send them this poker chip that don't have anything to do with
Everybody
Wisconsin
gets it
Holler.
right.
Ronnie, Ronnie
Oh,
A. Yep,
have a
first
winner.
dibs. Yep. I I've had a lot of stuff
I've
happen.
heard this story before.
Huh?
Ronnie A. heard
No, she. So we talk about things being connected. Now here's Peyton asked me this. Hold on, y'all. Excuse me. He said, you think somebody knew that? Nobody knew that. Nobody in my family's ever known that. It's not my name going back through history on both sides of my family is not a family name until you get back to the 1700s. Nobody knew it. My mom and daddy didn't know it. My mom and dad told the story how they got my name. I'll tell y'all the story how I got my name Roger. So I was born, and my mom and daddy didn't really know what they wanted to call me. I don't even know if they knew if I was a boy or a girl before the birth back then in '71. So
truly Roger either way.
so my daddy, they were throwing around names, and my mom was set on Kirk, and my dad's middle name is Douglas, and she was wanting to name me Kirk Douglas Williams. He said that. He said absolutely not, and they got in a big argument. Apparently, Daddy didn't know where Roger come from. He said, "I don't know. My mama just pulled it out of the air." And so, and my middle name's Wayne, and I found out some stuff about that later. But this is not a family name. And Kenny can tell you this. We can go through and look, and he heard me say, "Oh, I got a cousin with that name. Oh, I got 3 people I know with that name. Oh." in they just recycle names all throughout history. But have you seen Roger anywhere but that one spot? And I'm not saying it means anything. It's just we're talking about synchronicities and things happening. We don't know if it's connected, whatever. But having the lady tell us that story and then that happening was kind of profound a little bit, kind of
When did you
shocking.
figure out when your middle name?
We were at my dad's funeral, and my middle name's Wayne. And my dad and his family, there were 8 of them, but there was a ninth one that passed away. I never heard the story about him. I didn't know if he had a grave. I didn't know. I think he lived a few days. Well, um, we were at the funeral home. My dad, was
You
out
had no
front in the
clue
casket.
about it.
I had no clue about it, and I don't remember who brought it up. And huh?
I do.
Who? Oh, that tells me probably who brought it up now. But anyway, it was brought up that oh no, I know exactly what it was now. It was an aunt. And when they said the brother's name that died a few days after birth, he was Wayne Williams, which that don't mean it just it's to find that out, 50 years later that you had an uncle at one that didn't make it and they named you after the uncle. That it's a weird sensation. It's a weird
Did
feeling.
we accidentally find the grave, or did they tell us where it
We
was?
found it. We went to the
Beth
church,
Beer
went to Beth Beer Church, and found the tombstone, and there it was. So anyway, so with what Kenny does, and doing his research, I can see how you could get hooked on that, even if it's not your family,
Right.
because helping people with things they might not ever known. That's part that's part of what we've been talking about is stuff that we forget and have to relearn over and over and over. The oral history is gone. My family they were poor. They wasn't worried about anything but trying to get that next bite of food. So there's no passed down history, and all of them were hard workers. And of course, we found out there were 2 brothers. There were 2 sons of Bedford. Um, I saw it, Stacy. Oh, I'm trying to look at Chad. It's so small on this phone. Um, 2 brothers of Bedford, 2 sons of Bedford, ended up being. Now this is another. This is something else. Kenny knows this too. We forgot about it. Um, they were Texas Rangers. They were part of the Tennessee Volunteers, and Kenny brought something up earlier. And when he said Tennessee Volunteers, I'm like, oh, my heart kind of sunk because I know they were part of that. And if they were part of what he was talking about, golly, you don't even think about it. But they were not Lydia's sons. They were the next wife's sons. Wouldn't you say he was married about 3 times? That you could maybe something like that. So um the one, Stephen Jet, um, there was a group trying to get to the Alamo, women and kids and people, and they had been traveling for days. Their horses were, wasn't in good shape. The Mexican army spotted them and started. Some of them started over there. And Stephen, the story that I read was like, "Y'all go, I'll distract them." And he went the other way and got into a firefight with multiple military officer, not officer, military men, and they ended up killing him. But there was a lot of people there too when they found him. But what happened? That group that he was helping, they made it to the Alamo, and probably if there's women and kids in the group, Santa Ana probably let them out. He gave the option if you want to leave, you can leave or whatever. And so I found out his rifle is in a museum at the Alamo. I've got to drive to the freaking Alamo now. So
Something, and they were showing some different things and rifles and things like that. Because my cousin, which we're real close, we're more like brothers. Steve Travis. He's a descendant of a Barrett Travis, and Barrett Travis was at the Alamo. Now, if you go to Purdue Hill, Alabama, it's in Monroe County, Alabama. It's on Highway 84. Before you start going down to go across the Alabama River, there's the Barrett Travis house. That was his place where he lived at one time, and they preserved it. Um, it became a Masonic lodge for a while. But anyway, it's you can go there and look through it, and go inside and walk around and everything. But that was Barrett Travis, and he ended up at the Alamo, and that was his ancestor. It was really cool.
Folks from Southeast. Thanks for coming in. We're just talking about a little family history here, and Ken does a great job. Um, so Ken, we talk about synchronicities and things lining up and all that stuff, right? So Ken sends me this information, and I posted on Facebook. I'm so excited. I'm like, oh my God, look what he found. And I'm reading all this stuff and I'm going through it. And I told him, I said, I'll get to this later. I lied to him. I went right in it. I was like, I put my phone down and I went right back to it. So I'm reading all this stuff and I don't remember if Greg calls or what happened, but somehow me and him got on the phone together, and then Kumbo breaks in. And what are y'all doing? And all Roger's telling us about some of his
You can save this for your show.
about some of his um family history and all that. Oh, really? Yeah. And I said, man, Kenny Shivers been found this and this and this. He said, oh, wait up. Did you say Jet? Jett? I'm like, yeah. And here's the kicker. I have never seen this name spelt like this. There's Giles County right here, right beside us. It's Giles. That's the only way I've ever seen it spelled. Robert was Robert Giles Jet, but with a J, Jiles. And Kumbo said, hold up. You talking about the Jets, Jett? I'm like, yeah. He said, did you say Giles? I said, yeah. He said, was that with a J? I'm like, yeah. Why? He said, me and you might be kin to each other. And he said, now, I don't know. He said, one of them, my uncle's was in Arkansas in the 1800s, and had been a Texas Ranger. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even get to that part. I was like, wait a minute, not Scott, Giles and Stephen Giles. I keep getting these names mixed up, y'all. Him and his brother, I said they were at the Alamo. They were Texas Rangers. He said, oh my God, and we got to talking. Well, maybe he's an offspring. Like maybe they had a daughter. You know what I mean? And then or whatever. And we're flipping out. So it's and the thing is, and when you say synchronicity, it's all about timing. If Kenny hadn't called me that day and or sent me the stuff first, and then we started talking. Uh, let's say if I'd have learned that information and then I talked to Greg and Kumbo 5 days later, I probably wouldn't have told them about it, and we wouldn't have had that connection, right? So then Kumbo and I started talking, and we've known a lot of the same people, even though he's in northwest, Alabama, and I'm not that far. I'm 22, 23 miles from Alabama, right here. Um, we've known some of the same people. It was fun. It's funny talking to him. Like, yeah, do you know that guy? I'm like, yeah, yeah. He used to come in our store. So, so here again, this story's not about me and my family. I'm telling you this, y'all. Start digging. We're coming together for some reason. I didn't know Kenny 6 months ago. And some of this stuff, you might be shocked. And I'm gonna tell you something you can do. You can do a quick, if you don't know. Ken uses different ones, but I did it today. I picked out a Lydia Gray Eyes, put her son's name in Chat GPT. Tell me what you can about this. Well, then It'll tell you a lot of stuff, and then it asks questions like, "Do you want to know more? Do you want to know?" And then you can keep going, and it can help you. But I don't think it's going to be as thorough as it might find some stuff Kenny can't find, but what it is, it's quick. It scans the internet like instantly. So there's not going to be some it's not going to be everything, but it can start you. The Kenny looks good on my end. That's you, Wendell. No, yeah. Now he might freeze up. He might be. Well, he might be in a pool of water instead of the current. Yeah. So yeah, that's right. And see, I know a lot of y'all have Native American blood. That's what's been shocking. Some of the people I didn't think, you know, they do, and I don't know what to make of it. But I know maybe we can look at it like this: if we want to know more, we got to dig more, and you might run up on roadblocks, but at least try. And some of this stuff is pretty amazing. But I'm gonna tell you, the finding out that I have a cousin or uncle's rifle at the museum in Alamo was pretty cool. Being a gun enthusiast and stuff like that. But the highlight, it's got to be the letters. It's got to be the letters. It's because I'm the type of person. It's be different for everybody. I'm the type of person that if I have an antique, it may be worth 2 cents, but if it's 200 years old and it might have come from Italy, and the person here in chat, you know, it may it may have come like, how did it get here? How did it get to Petersburg, Tennessee, or Cornersville, Tennessee? What journey did this piece of whatever go through to get here? That's kind of the way I am with antiques.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Now it's this whole thing's been crazy. This 2 years, how it's happened, what's happened, and I try I try to tell the stories that I can back stuff up. Some of them you can't. I mean, 14 years old, I can't back that story up with anything. That's why Peyton's here on his phone. Because if I say something wrong, he's gonna correct me. um, hey Wyatt, Patrick, dang, I thought Ken was frozen. Ken's just sitting there. What's he eating?
Peppermint.
So what how many years have you been researching like genealogy and stuff?
Let's see. I probably really got started about probably around 2000, the early 2000s is when I really got started.
Wow, that's 25 years ago.
Yeah. And I had done a little bit prior to that, as far as just on my own family and,
Right.
you know, just reading history books and things like that. But
Does it
yeah, I was
My great.
Yeah, well, we don't want to dig too much because Heather might be kin to me, so I don't want to know that. She said,
passed away in 2011, and this was maybe 5 years after she had passed. I was working on the genealogy for her family because I wanted to have that, for my son, and so he could have that, to pass down to his, kids, so they would have her family information. And I got way back and came across some names, and I was looking at that, and I said, "Those names sound. I've seen those names."
Mhm.
And then it hit me, oh gosh. And I went right over to my family tree and looked back. We're the same names. It's 7 generations back. 7 generations back, we shared grandparents, and we never had a clue. We never, I mean, never knew it. No. Pick on Kentucky today. But yeah, true story. So you never know, but I think 7 generations back, we're safe. I think we all go back to the same 2 people anyway, right? So somewhere down the line, we're cousins, all of us.
I didn't understand that comment. I'm sure it was a slam at me somehow, but it didn't make sense. But well, they're saying that I you froze up one time and I froze up, but me and you both are.
We were froze at one point while he was talking on my phone. I was looking.
Um,
We were over here.
you're fine to me.
I can't see nobody. Y'all blocked me.
Yeah, one of the,
Who blocked me from?
you can't. They can't block you. You're a moderator.
Someone did.
No, they
I
didn't.
can't see.
Well, get on. Yes, you can. You
They
lie.
have.
He's lying. Y'all don't believe a
now.
word he says. He makes up stuff. But yeah, it's been fun. Ken, I don't know.
Hey.
We what made you reach out to me? I mean, I know that you don't have to answer, but I mean, I got a message one day and I recognize your name from chat, and I try to answer everybody. Sometimes I don't have time. But the, the only person I don't answer back is Wendell. Because if I answer him back, it might give him a heart attack, and but I do sometimes. I do, and Wendell, I do see all your messages. I just don't respond to all your messages because sometimes they're at 3 a.m. No, he ain't done that in a while. Picking with you, Wendell. um, yeah, yeah, and it's and it's funny um, how like that happened, but like at Holland, we hung out as much as we could. I know there was a lot of people there, and we were, you were going doing different things or whatever. But I really enjoyed. I mean, like with Katie G and Heather and me and you and Billy, and we had people coming in and out. I mean, I had a blast. What I was about to talk about your comment, Mark, and I think I um got off track because he was talking about banjos. Y'all, this goofball here, there's Duck River in the north end of this county, and there's trails everywhere because they've got state parks and all that, and Yanali, the Yanali,
Yep.
Yanali land preserves like 12,000 acres probably. It's
15.
it's split up
That's a lot.
300 here, 1,200 over here, 2,000 over there. But most of it's along the Duck River, and we were up on the knob up there, and we'd walk this trail he had showed me, and we're on this bluff overlooking the river, but we're in the woods, but we still see the water down there. And Duck River and that
Summertime, dude.
summertime, and so we're in the shade. It was hot. That stretch of rivers where a lot of people call answer that part of the river.
What are you doing?
Greg just called him. Y'all don't listen to him. He's telling these lies.
We're on a live right now. Daddy's talking about some.
Don't put people on live and don't let them know. I'm the worst one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't. Last time
Listen.
you were on live, you got a little.
Yeah.
Harry.
So maybe we won't run over deer sitting on the couch.
I'm going.
Hey, he's going outside. They're gonna have a private conversation. They're probably talking about me. But anyway, but Ken, what was I talking about? No, I would yes. So Mark D, your comment. We were up on this knob, and this stretch of river is really, really overused actually. Canoes and kayaks and stuff, right? We heard the paddles hitting or the oars hitting the side of plastic boats, and Peyton said, "Listen, here comes some people." And you could hear the water, and they were talking, and we didn't think anything about it, but I could hear they had northern accents. So I don't know whether they were visiting, they had moved in the area, and they were, go. Peyton does it all the time. It's just beautiful, and they'll drop you off at one point and pick you up or whatever. And they were talking. I could hear them. That sound carrying over that water, and we're probably 60s or 70 feet above them. They didn't know we were there. They couldn't see us. So this idiot gets on YouTube, turns his volume all the way up, starts playing dueling banjos. And at first, when they were easing down through there, you could hear the oar hit the boat every now and then. When he started playing dueling banjos, it started speeding up a little bit, and they quit talking, and they got around the bend. I said, "That was absolutely horrible, Pete. Why would you do somebody like that?" And he did it though. I don't know. He had signal, and I'm like, I try to do stuff like that. And I don't have signal, but you could hear those oars hitting those boats a little faster.
I thought at first you were going to say they turned around the corner and then there was
Went back
nobody
upriver.
there.
It's
The
it,
Duck River, that sounds familiar for some reason. Um,
well, there's a lot of
was there
battles.
a massacre on the Duck River?
Not officially, probably, but it was the same. These areas, Ken, you know this well. I do. We only know what history that was written down
Hmm.
if you're not from a certain area. And
I've heard something somewhere about a Duck River massacre.
stretches several counties east to west. And it's one of those tight. If you go 2 3 counties over from here, you're gonna cross the Duck River 85 times because it's back and forth, back and forth. And I do know there was activity during the Civil War, and there were some ships that how the stories get told where the Confederates were the Union Army was closing in, and there's some pretty vicious battles, all over here, everywhere, even where you're at probably. So they knew they were closing in on them, and they got word. I think they were going to ambush them or something. This story was years ago when I heard it. They took all their gold and dumped it in the Duck River off of that ship. When I say ship, I'm not talking about something like the Titanic, of course, but one good enough to haul troops, back and forth or whatever. So um, there are rumors that there's some wooden boxes full of gold somewhere here in this county. Now, supposedly, they were coon hunting back in the day and they had their dogs out at night. The guy had drinking a little bit and got separated from the group. They were looking for a dog or something. He got down the river and it was a heavy, heavy drought. It was a big drought that year, and water was down in the river. And this guy supposedly found it. And when he went back and told his friends, and they came back the next day, they couldn't find it because how everything looks different, at nighttime. And he was stumbling around. So um, now that I'm sure there's stories like that everywhere, but maybe and because I know people know this, but think about this. When you had that war that went on, and people are like, well, why did the Southern people, hang on to that for a long time? And I'm sitting there, I'm actually in a history class. and I'd gone back to school for a little while. I needed a history, and everybody was looking around like, the teacher asked that, why do you think, and I said, I know why. And I've told this before, it's because the war was fought here, and it's just like us leaving another country and coming back. You get here, everything's fine. Well, the northern troops go back home and everything's fine. Here, you're having to rebuild the barns. There's bullet holes in the wall. I have actually seen, y'all. There's a big old house in Spring Hill, and it was used as a hospital. And crude hospital. Um, the second story floor. This young girl that bought this. I was in real estate for a little while. She bought this house, and she invited some of us over to come look at it. And I was like, man, how old is that thing? Went over there, and there was, some of those houses have the big doors, the big double doors, entrance and whatever. there was a there were scuff marks in the hallway in the front from the front door, and that was from a Union soldier that ran up in there with his horse. And it was being used as a hospital. It was supposed to be off limits. You know what I mean? But maybe he needed help, or somebody needed help. But this horse, all these years later, there's the scuff marks. Now come here and look at this. This room right here is the amputation room, and the hardwood floors were discolored. Discolored. I don't know if the blood and white blood cells and all that stuff after soaked up in this wood, which probably did. And there were spots that looked like somebody had laid, you know, and what they were doing, they were amputating in that upstairs room, and they were throwing the limbs out the window, and they were collecting them down there, and they would do what they did with them, whatever that was. And I'm like, "Are you scared this ain't haunted?" "Oh, it'll be all right." Y'all, here's Trigger. So, but anyway, so what I'm saying is, the reminders, they're still here, even to this day. I know I drive by trees. There, some of them are still alive. Some of them might be, but uh, that might have been 5,000 men camped there for a week. No, I don't do ghosts. Uh, I I probably wouldn't sleep in that county because that house to knock. No, it's gotten better over the years. I don't have a stronger fear because I had the fear from that recurring dream and that haunted house we lived in. So that stuff really scared me because I had that dream. I thought something was trying to take me, and when we moved out of there, the dream stopped. But I still remember it, and I think because of that, any if years ago when you started telling the ghost story, I would get out. I'd be gone. I was at a party one time. I was 16 or 17 out of 68 Plymouth satellite, and they brought out the Ouija board. Guess who the first one come out of the driveway was? I said, "Party's over. I'm not. Oh, Rod ain't staying." Because I mean, there's a difference in being scared for fun and being scared out of your wits, something that actually happens. And we've all dealt with. A lot of us have dealt with this, not being able to talk about it, whether it's Bigfoot or seeing other things or other things happening, weird stuff happening. Um, just like that crystal that blew up in your car, that quartz. Um, you'll probably never get an explanation for that. And you always wonder, probably you might, but there's things that happen that scare us. And let's say somebody when they're real young has a mishap in a pool and almost drowns. Well, they're probably gonna be afraid of water the rest of their life. So what I did, um, these ghost hunting shows and stuff. I mean, I couldn't look at them. I'm a grown man. I couldn't even look TV. It'd be on there, and I was thinking one day, man, you gotta do something. This is crazy. I know stuff is real, and that's why it scared me. I was always scared of that jump scare years ago, and when I made myself sit down here in this house by myself years ago and watch a marathon of, like, was it Ghost Hunters? Was Zach Baggins and all those guys? Um, and 3 or 4 episodes in, it got entertaining, and it was funny watching them. My mom always says, "Them old big old boys and grown men go in there looking for ghosts, and when something happens, they run out the front door screaming like little girls." I was like, "Yo, that's the way it is." But
Hey, and David and Kathy Beasley took us over there, and but I had heard, all the stories about that, and so I was kind of like, I didn't know if I wanted to go there or not, and I said, well, it's during the day, whatever. So, I guess my curiosity, kind of was bigger than my apprehension about going. So
yeah, well,
we ended up going over there and sat around for a few hours, walked a little ways, and walked down on, past where the gate is, walked down that for, not too
yeah.
far, but a little ways back in the woods there. And nothing really, I didn't get any kind of creepy feelings or anything. And um, I did hear a fluttering sound, and I don't know what that was. It just was a flutter. Um, kind of like a bird, but there wasn't a bird there. Like close to me. Oh yeah, yeah.
And we went back this last time, and we had a great time. Now they're both Gary says we're both froze up. Huh. Well, you
Who knows?
wanna we're getting close to an hour. You want if we're freezing up, you got anything you want to say to anybody while we're wrapping it up? Oh, I had a great time. No, we got Jay said he had a 71 Plymouth satellite. They don't see him anymore. I know you don't really. You know, back in the day, I guess so. We TKB said started at had a great time. I was talking about Hollins. Yeah, yeah. Probably what it is. It's after work time, and everybody's probably using the Wi-Fi in because there ain't nobody going outside. That's for sure. It's too hot. Except Ken. I don't know how you're staying in the same spot in that rapid water, but but yeah, Wendell, get out the circles. Uh, well, y'all, I did some of it. I didn't know all of it, but we're in the garage with fans running. Uh, um, that I hadn't let Heather listen to it yet because Ken sent me a bunch of stuff, and y'all know I've been under the weather. Yeah, and I did listen to some of it, and I hadn't let her listen to it yet. But there's one that sounds exactly like what we got on recording at Hollins, and hearing what you've got, knowing what I heard, and it sounds the same. I, how far away you think it was?
Maybe 30 yards, sounded like maybe. And it was about 1:30 in the morning. I was sitting out there. I was by myself, just sitting in my chair. And I had there was a stump. Okay, this is another thing. I don't think I told you this. Um, Going toward the woods, right in the edge of the wood lines, and Creepy Mountain, like on the west end, is like right there. You go walk into those woods just a little ways, and it starts going up. Steep slope. But there was a stump. Excuse me, y'all. I'm cutting grass just they's got me all stirred up. But there was a stump, and David had set a quartz rock sitting on top of the stump. And so I'm like, oh, this is a perfect place right here. So I had already went and put my recorder there, right on that stump next to that quartz rock. And so I went back and sitting down, and it wasn't too long after that. And um, wasn't that wasn't too far into the audio when that happened, and maybe 20 minutes or so, and I heard that, but and then that just started off the chain reaction of all these
Mm,
other sounds.
yeah.
You heard that first, then you heard the dog, and then you hear the coyotes start going crazy, and you hear all the other stuff. David said that's the big boy. He calls him the big boy. Not the first one. Um, yeah, there were several. It's a lot in there. Like I sent it to Flat Rock too, and he can listen to it.
There was in the middle there. There was you saying the big boy. That's the one that sounded like what we called it Hollins, and we were like 70, 80 yards away from it. It and Superfly was right on top of it, but it was so daggum loud. We reacted. I snapped around and I knew what it was. I'd heard it before. I just didn't know if it was natural or somebody was doing it. And then I figured out real quick, there ain't nobody. There's not anybody doing this because we had the answer call.
Oh,
You know,
mm.
when I listened to that recording, I'm like, oh crap, that's the same. You know what? No, we haven't. You know what? I wonder. Let me get with you and see if we can get that analyzed by the same guy that analyzed mine, and see if it on the same equipment and see if it reads the same. We're gonna do that. I've got send me that file again. That way I won't have to go back through 4B messages. But yeah, let's do that and see if it matches up. Cause I swear to you, it it sounded so he called that the big boy. I know why. Cause yeah.
Well, I left it out all overnight. So after all that, I went on to bed. No, I take that back. I didn't leave it all out all night. It's only about 2 hours total. But at other points in the audio recording, you keep hearing these. I don't know. It just sounds like there's something right beside the microphone, piddling around or making little noises here and there, tapping sounds or something. It was weird
Mhm.
sounding. And I kept thinking, what in the was that? Because, I was sitting right there. There was nothing around that. And I was a good ways away from it. It wasn't me.
Right.
And so I got to think about it. The only thing I could think of was that quartz rock. And it got me to wondering, was that quartz rock putting out some type of sound or energy or something, and it was right beside that quartz.
That's a good thought, actually.
So I got to wondering, because it was just a different sound,
Was it like a crackling and popping or just a electric
kind of a
sound?
crackle every now and then, sounded kind of like a crackle.
And you have
And
one rock sitting up there?
periodically, yeah, it was
It
a
could
good, it was a good size one.
well the energy, I believe to get energy you have to put pressure on it, but they're full of it, so it
Yeah,
interfere with a device close to it? That's a good question. Hey, Miss Burton. That's a good thought. So so go leave that device out all night tonight. Then the next night, put a quartz rock beside it and see if it has similar. But the thing is, if you can't control the humidity might have been just right. The atmosphere might have been, so yeah. Uh,
in the shop, um, here a while back, I think it was even on a previous visit up there. All of us sitting out there one night, and his leaf blower in the shop fired up on his own. It wasn't plugged in anything. It was on battery, and it came
that's
on like for a second. It came on for about a second and went right back off. And
unplugged.
oh yeah, unplugged. So there's
There
three of us that were there heard it. So, and
have,
that's
have
exactly what it was because he went in there and he bumped it and you know came and there's no doubt that's what it was.
that's scary. I know.
That was crazy. And I ain't
Does
told
he?
you about I hadn't told you about the black cat thing, have I?
No. Does
This
he
is
have an
going on there
EMF
too.
reader?
What's that?
Does he have an EMF reader?
Not that I know of. I
Okay.
don't think he does. We really need to get some readings there though.
The other day in Kentucky. So, um, yeah, Holland. When we say Holland, I'm talking about the area. It needs to be studied. It needs to be. There needs to be experiments like TKB's doing. Just to get some data on, like, you could go check the EMF readings at certain temperatures and atmospheric conditions and stuff like that, just for fun, and see if there's a correlation, or connection. Tell me about the do I want to know about the
The
black
black
cat situation? Yeah.
I, it is what it is. I mean, I think I did tell you, or maybe I was on Woodwalkers when I was talking about it. I think the first time, or one of the first couple of times that I had been up there, we were around the fire pit behind their house, and I was facing toward Creepy Mountain, and I was only one, but something black. It was like a black blur just streaked across, um, back behind the fire pit, toward Creepy Mountain. It was just a flash, real black, dark flash, real quick.
Hmm.
I don't know what it was, but the size of it was kind of like a cat, but maybe a little bigger than a cat. It was just strange because it moved so fast, and I hadn't really thought about that anymore. Now, a week or so, or a couple weeks ago, we were up there, and I was standing back behind. We were back behind their house, by the shop, basically, and so I'm standing there, and I'd say probably about 6 feet away, 5 or 6 feet away, more directly in front of the shop. Um, um, my buddy Jonathan was standing there with the dog, and the dog was right there. Boo Boo was right there, standing by Jonathan, and we were about to, go into the camper or whatever. And I don't remember if we were getting some stuff out. It might have been when we first got there, and we were getting some stuff out of the truck. But we were just standing there, and all of a sudden, this black thing came running between the shop and the camper and ran right directly between us all. And it was just a black blur. And it was, Jonathan said that it, you know, kind of looked like a cat. And I said, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. And it happened so fast. I've never seen a cat move that fast. But the thing is, it ran in between the shop and the camper and ran right between us. And it was going so fast, it was just like a black blur. No, no, too fast. And Boo Boo, the dog, she didn't even have time to react. She didn't even flinch or do anything, which that was strange. Really. Wow. Hey, Hillary. Yeah. It'll take them a while, wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Anyway, but it yeah.
You know, wasn't a big, it was a little bit bigger than a regular house cat or longer, maybe. And, it was down close to the ground, but that thing, it was kicking up rocks when it went between us. It moved so fast, it was just a blur.
Forever, and moved out, and they never had anything weird happen there, right? So when they got struck by lightning, my dad and the other guy got thrown up in the air, and they were pretty much okay. But my mom and the other guy was hit pretty hard. And after that, she started seeing stuff similar to that, Ken. Black shadows moving quickly, and just like just where you couldn't tell what it was. That ain't the only reason they sold the house, but that was part of it. One of them was mountain lions getting on top of the house too, which that ain't that's not fun. Yeah,
They ever see shadows?
He- they wasn't seeing shadows at that house until they got struck by lightning. And after they got struck by lightning, uh, matter of fact, you remember the stereo downstairs, in the middle floor where she had her computer room and all that. That stereo started coming on by itself, and then the sewing machines. She was sewing one day, and the other one beside her was unplugged.
Dude, I remember being in the living room down there on the floor. You know how it looks. The living room.
Come here.
Why they can hear me?
They can't hear you.
Well, the living room was down in the bottom, and then there was that like part
Yeah.
when you went upstairs, you could look over and see down into the living room. I remember being down there playing in the living room, and it looked like somebody walking back and forth up there, and I just thought it was Nana. Nana was over here trading stocks on the computer.
Well, I mean,
And
none of that happened until after the lightning strike. So,
how old were we when they got struck by lightning? We were young, because I don't remember.
I was still married to your
I
mom.
don't even know if
So
I was born yet.
you were. You couldn't have been no more than, well, we got divorced when you were 3.
That pink room where that sewing machine was weird.
I know. But the sewing machine came on by
I didn't
itself.
like being in that back room. You go through where the pool table is, and you go to the very back room. I don't like that room was weird too.
But see, I lived there all those years and never had issues. And I'm more sensitive than a lot of them. But it. Thank you. Tell me what Greg said later, or I have to call him.
I just told him when I told you what happened to work today.
Oh, okay. See ya. So anyway, no, I mean that's part of the whole. You can say appeal of that area is stuff happens you don't know, but it keeps repeating is the thing. It's not like it's a one off. It's like, oh, me and Heather caught some audio, or Gary caught some audio, or Wendell caught some audio. It's like, Flat Rock saying there was look like flashes going off. And that was Flat Rock, right? In the daytime. Flashes going off, and some of them are so close they was lighting up the inside of the camper trailer. Um, the orbs, Patrick, seeing the orbs the night before. Us, everybody knows what happened to us. Um, Greg seeing the red light. Behind JR the trip before. The red light I saw and pointed out to KDG. And you might have been there at that time. I don't remember. But so, so it's not like this is one thing and like, oh, I caught it on audio. Ken, I believe you caught the same thing we did. I don't mean the same creature. I mean the same type of creature. It might be the same one because it sounded. I don't have much, but I have a pretty good ear for stuff like that. If I can hear it, but when I heard it, I was like, "Whoa, that's odd." That he said, "Oh, you caught the big one, big guy." I want to know about Kenny's necklace. Kenny, I saw it earlier too. I want to know about it also. What does it say? Fry bread. All right.
This
So is
was
that?
this was
So,
um a friend of mine in Cherokee in North Carolina. She gave this to me a few years ago when we were up there visiting
mm,
with her and her husband, and she gave it to me.
Well,
And so I thought, well,
that's cool.
I'll put on my Cherokee fry bread power
That's
necklace.
cool. Well, so next
If
time
that's what we were
I'm gonna
talking
have me one. I'm gonna be cornbread power, and Greg's gonna be white sauce.
about. There you go.
So no, I like it. I saw it earlier, but I couldn't tell if that was a logo on your shirt below it
Yeah. It's
or it was part of. Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool.
it's all beadwork, the
I'm gonna have
beadwork
to.
and then the beadwork around the
I'm gonna have to get me a bracelet or
badge.
something. But I want you to be my guide. So, because the last Native American artifact that I accepted about ruined my life. It was
Yeah,
a
you gotta be
it
careful of that stuff.
yeah, it was a it ended up being a funeral or death cane or something. It had a little
Ooh.
yeah. The guy was telling me. He said I said, "Man, I've had such bad luck in the last year or so or whatever." And he's from out southwest, Native American, right? And
Uh-huh.
so we were talking. He said, "You ain't brought anything into your house lately that's odd or something." And that sounds like a curse on you. I told him all the things that happened. And I'm like, I don't know. I said, wait a minute. I've got this stick. What does it look like? I said, this dude gave it to me. And when I explained what it looked like, he said, you better get that out of your house now. Bring it to me. Let me dispose of it. He said, oh my God, Roger, you dummy. I'm like, I said, well, why would he give me something like that? He said, to get it away from him. That's what so I carried it to his house and and after that, everything seemed to be Greg. Greg has hoe cake power. Miss Verby. I I I gotta I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm gonna have to Google that. I don't know what that is.
Well, okay.
That must be an Alabama thing.
I'm sure they got hoe cake in Tennessee.
What is it? I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Well, the name of it comes from the Civil War,
Okay.
um, from what I've always been told anyway, where or during that time period of the Civil War, they would put their bread on the hoe, over the fire to cook them some bread.
Oh, okay.
So it came to be called hoe cakes. Now,
Okay.
some people, what they call hoe cakes are like cornbread type fritters, but at at the reservation here, like a biscuit, more like a biscuit, is cooked in an iron skillet, but it's cooked on top of the stove. It's not
Okay.
cooked in the oven, it's cooked on top of the stove.
Man, I'm gonna have to look this
That's
up.
what a lot of people around here call hoe cakes, but then some other people, it's more like a cornbread fritter, what they call hoe cakes.
Okay. I'm gonna have to look that up, y'all. I've been
So
missing out.
either one's good still.
So Miss Verby needs to make me a rum hoe cake and I'll be all set, right?
Or some fry bread.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I tell you
Yep.
what's really good, sweet potato fry bread is.
I am never y'all. I am
It is
missing out.
out of this world.
Where
Sweet potato fry bread.
where do you get that at?
You will just have to make it.
I'm gonna have to
If
look
you
it up.
go places.
Heather, get her write it down. Go get some ingredients. Okay.
If you ever
I
go
see Miss
though, if you're
Diane.
ever in Cherokee, North Carolina, like they just had their powwow. They have their powwow July the 4th.
Okay.
And they just had their powwow there. And but at events like that, and they were even at they came down to porch powwow this past. We have ours on Thanksgiving and
Okay.
the day after, and there's a lady from Cherokee, um, and she has Nikki's fry bread, Miss Nikki's fry bread, and her line is always. I mean, you'll have to wait
People waiting. It,
because her fry bread is like, you know,
and I guess there's
she does it, but She's got a special touch on hers.
Well, that's the thing. You can try to make like people around here. There's some people that make the fried pies,
Oh
and I
gosh.
try to make a fried pie and go by recipe, and it don't taste the same. It has a lot to do with what they cook it in, what kind of oil or grease they use, the timing,
Yep.
all of that. You know, it's
There's an art to that.
it's a skill, right? You're right. Um, you can.
Man, those fried apple pies. I knew a lady that she used to make those and take them to the church, and
Mhm.
people would literally
Fight each
be
other.
racing each other to get, like if we had a dinner,
Yeah.
they had raced in there to get them some of the apple pies before they even fix their main plate
So why'd y'all have to
because they wouldn't
call
be
the police
left.
to? Why'd y'all have to call the police to church? He said, "Well, she brought 15 pies and there was 23 people."
No, I'm not lying though. I don't know how she made them. Um, she tried to teach my mom how to make them, but and they were good, but they weren't. They were not the same. They were not like hers. But I know she used the dried apples in them,
Well, the thing here,
and they were thin, like a thin layer. You know. I said,
here that do those fried pies, they can't make enough of them. And we have the Mennonites. They make what all the breads and all that stuff, and what else, Heather? Jellies and jams, and some of that's see that's food that I was used to when I was young, when I was little. All this fake food and fake ingredients we got now, it don't even taste the same, and we don't even realize
mm-mm, mm-mm.
that people quit using in the 80s. There was a old lady in Nashville that was famous for making her biscuits. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So I, I hear go out and come back in.
Go out and come back in.
Yeah, there's an echo. I think it doubled up on us.
Okay.
I'll run my mouth while you. Y'all hold up a second. Kenny's gonna miss the story. So what I was telling him, there was a lady in Nashville. Hey CD, there was a lady in Nashville that was real famous for her biscuits, and oh man, people line up and they won't know the secret to it. And it was a very simple recipe. Finally, she got old enough that hold on, let me add Ken here. There he is. So Ken, well, I was telling everybody, there was a lady in Nashville that was famous for her biscuits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oh, they made a big fit. There's always a line and all that. So um, I think as she got older and she was about to pass away or whatever she did, they finally no, it was her that told it. You know what her secret ingredient was?
No telling.
Lard.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes.
Yep, yep.
That will
There's a
make a
whole different level of
big
biscuit.
difference. Yeah. Yep.
And when everybody started going to now Crisco's fine. You can cook with Crisco. You can get that grease hot enough. Y'all all know this, but you get these oils that want to smoke on you at a certain at a cooler temperature. You can't really cook with it a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times, and the flavor's different, y'all. Y'all know that, but these people with these long lines at these trucks or at a cookout or at a food trucks or something at an event, that food is expensive. It always is, but
Yep.
man, it's good.
Yeah, it is.
Man, it's good. Miss
Especially,
C Miss
especially when they use lard.
Miss CD Swasher done snuck in here on us. How you doing, ma'am? So basically, I made I made something one day, and I went and got some Crisco just for nostalgic reasons, kind of
Yeah,
sort of. And we've got Crisco now. I try to keep it because and look, I don't. They told us things were bad for us, and the things they were replacing it with were worse. So
exactly.
roach coaches, yeah. what we got today? And man, most of the time it's really, really good food.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
mama used to fry her chicken in Crisco,
Yeah. Oh
and
God. Crispy and brown and
it's just like you were talking about the nostalgic part, because
it tastes
I can get good chicken places, and I love fried chicken, but when I think about my mama's, it was just different,
yeah.
and I know that she cooked it with Crisco,
Well, I
and
know it's like
I miss that.
they would get everything ready. They would have their same pan they've had for 30 years. They would have the Crisco. They would have their same stove that they'd had for 30 years. And they had it down to everything. They knew exactly what to do. We get in here, we buy new pans. I get canola oil, whatever, turn the stove on the new stove. And 3 minutes later, I got black smoke and the fire alarm going off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you don't know,
Yeah.
you don't know how this thing's going to heat up because it may be thin
Mhm.
aluminum or it may be,
Right.
you know what I
Right.
mean? And that's the hardest thing to learn. I've got too many different types right now. I need to get more condensed with what I need and the same type, the same thickness in the bottom and all that because it does make a big difference. And like the cast iron, it'll heat up, and I think I'm more careful with it because of what it's made out of. And I seem to work. I think I cook better in the cast iron because I'm more uh, careful, I guess.
Yeah.
Crisco and lard. Gary said I mix my Crisco with my lard. I got superpowers now. He said, that's man. You can. Let me ask y'all, Ken.
Uh-huh.
Every region, we talk about Bigfoot and we talk about ghosts and all that. Every region, you're talking about nostalgia. I mean, when I say region, I mean you could be 2 counties over or the next county. What growing up here, the drink that we all grew up with was the super powered high caffeine Sundrop, and we absolutely love Sundrop in this area. What kind of drinks and food in South Alabama that was real popular with y'all back in the day?
think it was a lot of the same, but I do, I've heard a lot of people talk about the sun drop,
Hmm.
from further up northern Alabama, seems like.
Hmm.
And I don't know that it was different really here by the time, but I remember the main thing I remember is getting the drinks in the bottle, when you still got them in the bottle, because my daddy would take me, would take me to get my hair cut down at the barber shop in town, and back then, all the drinks were in a bottle. So I usually, got a Coke, but sometimes it would be I'd get a grape. I like the grape soda, and I'd get one of them. But at that time, you drink and then you leave the bottle,
Hmm.
or either you take it with you and you bring the bottle back.
Get the deposit. Yep.
You know, yeah. So, but I remember that, and but I loved Mr. Pibb. I always loved Mr. Pibb in a bottle.
And it was years
I can't find that anymore.
before I saw the first Mr. Pibb. Now my mom and daddy bought a store when I was 7, and pretty much back then you had Sundrop, Coke, Pepsi.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
we didn't have ski here. I had now there was a squirt that was kind of citrus.
Hmm.
There was when we had RC like Gary and some of them said
Yeah, the
the
RCs.
RC
Yeah.
cola, the double cola. And see some of that I don't know, maybe it was cheaper too because maybe Coca Cola was the good stuff.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, Coca Cola peanuts in it. Yes,
Yeah.
orange crust. And look, the I've got a brown orange crust bottle. There's a long story behind that one bottle. It finally ended up in my grandmother's, and that was the only thing when she passed away years ago that I wanted. And it finally ended up. I was complaining about it. I was a grown man. I was throwing a fit one day. I said, "Man, I wanted one thing, and that's all I requested." And somebody got it. It wasn't worth $5, but to me, it was my grandma's house. That was that brown orange crush bottle that she had on her knickknack shelf, and that's what I wanted. And I just happened to be complaining, and my uncle overheard it. He went home and got that bottle and brought it back to me. It was him that got it
How about
20
that?
years before. Yeah. So I ended up with it. So, um, no, RC does not taste the same. Let me tell y'all something about. I know a little bit about that, and the Carolinas are famous for Sundrop and cheer wine. There was a pocket here, Pulaski and North Carolina. I thought Dale Earnhardt was a lying SOB when he did a Sundrop commercial because I was told this was the only place Sundrop was made. Well, the thing is, the Sundrop owner lived in Giles County. Pulaski had the big plant there and all that.
Hmm.
So here's what happened, y'all. When they changed hands, we were in the store business, and y'all know me liking to ask questions, right? So when people would something would change, I would ask the guys that been working at the place forever. Here's the deal. So Sundrop, the owner kept the recipe. He still owns the recipe for the syrup. Now Coca-Cola bottles Sundrop, right?
Really?
But different areas, if it's canned Sundrop, the small little bottle Sundrop or the 10 ounce, they're all done probably in different locations, is the way I understand it. So the water's different, the little subtle differences, right?
Yeah.
Um, Carolinas did have the Sundrop. I found out later, and Daryl and uh, Earnhardt wasn't lying that I thought he was, but so some of your drinks are mixed by another company now. If you'll notice, sometimes you'll see a Dr. Pepper or something in a different shaped bottle or a Coca-Cola. So it probably came from somewhere else. So anyway, that don't mean anything. It's just it's if it's made in a different area, sometimes it you're exactly right. My daddy and them threw a fit because in the 70s, because their cheap beer go-to beer was Pabst Blue Ribbon. And there was a strike and some stuff happened, and they swore up and down after everything happened, the beer tastes different. So who knows?
Yeah, that cheer wine, that's
Oh,
good. That's good stuff. I
that's
like that.
now okay.
And
You're right.
7 Up, Hillary's talking about 7 Up too. That's not the same as it used to be.
No, I used to take a 7 Up or Sprite bottle in a little small bottle in the cooler where you could shut the door, no light hit it, and you'd open that thing up and open it on the door. And if you moved it wrong, it might turn to slush.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's so
Yep.
cold. And the thing was, my daddy always
Oh
said
yeah,
it.
we get them like that at school for recess.
That
They'd bring
Coca
their
Cola,
drinks, at recess, and they'd have ice in them. Be
that
so cold.
burn,
Ooh.
you take and turn that up on a hot day, and that set Sprite or 7 Up
Hmm.
hit your throat, and oh, it's such a good burn. It was so good.
Yeah.
And listen, I had a family member. I won't say any names. Years ago, they were little in the 50s and early 60s. Y'all know the vending machines, back then they were stacked on top of each other. You open this little thin door, and you could look down through there. You
Yep.
put the money in, you pull it out.
Uh-huh.
Right, the top's right there. You pull it out in the bottle.
Right.
Then they had the ones sitting down. You flip the top open, and there was rows. You put the money in, you slide that bottle out, and you go
Yep.
home. And they had, hey Scott B, they had what was they call them church keys. I know there's the bottle openers. What a lot of people around here used to call them church keys and all that. And he said when he was young, they were so poor. He always had a church key and a straw in his pocket. Now, can you think of what he did with a church key and a straw? He never paid for the first drink. He he said he would have a cup with the one stand up one. He'd open that
Uh-huh.
door. He'd take and pop that top off and fill his cup up. It would run out the bottle and leave. Then on the others, he would take and pop the top off of it and lean over and stick that straw down in there and drink it while it's in the cooler. You don't think that ain't some thugging. That's
Oh,
country thugging. Boy, I tell
yep.
you,
There you go.
Miss Diane. Yep. I said that. I was talking to Kumbo the other day, and I was doing something, and I said something about getting my church key out, and he laughed. I said, I said, what is it? He said, man, they ain't 10 people knows what a church key is. I'm like, and what it was the little bottle opener. It had
Yeah.
the two in, or you could open quarts of oil too. Back, you remember back in the day, it had the
Hmm.
point. You could open up the oil. And, yeah. So anyway, y'all,
Yep.
we're gonna we're gonna get off of here. We appreciate y'all coming in.
Now we getting thirsty and hungry and all that
Yeah, I
now,
know,
so we
right?
can
Yeah,
enjoy our dinner, enjoy
and
our
there's some
supper.
and there's some other shows about to start, probably at 7 o'clock. So I don't want to.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share the story and thank Ken for doing everything he's done so far, because I that
Oh, it's
that
a lot of
stuff
fun.
that's to me that's the coolest thing ever, learning history that nobody talked about it in my family. So, and that's odd. There's so many things that somebody could have been, let's say, proud of, family history or heritage or whatever, and nobody in my family knows it. The only people that know it or was in this room when I told it today, Heather and Peyton.
Yeah.
Nobody else in my family knows any of that stuff. And
Yeah.
that's a shame. There's one lady that does know about Lydia, and there may be a couple that might know her name, but other than that,
You know, the
uh,
gray eyes, Roger, that's something, that's a thing with Cherokee people that I've heard talk about is that um, that is kind of a predominant trait in a lot of Cherokee people and Cherokee descendants are those gray color eyes
mm.
they have. That's actually a thing. I've heard people talk about that.
And she
So,
now tell me if you what the lady told me in North Carolina in the middle of the woods. Um, when I asked her about her eyes, she said that the gray eyed people are more, not, I don't know what word she used, but more in tune with nature, more uh open to things. I mean, she described to me more susceptible to having basically weird things happen and all that. So
I think
uh
so. I think so. And I think that if I'm not mistaken, I believe that I've heard that a lot of the medicine people of the Cherokee have that trait, having those color eyes.
I've Ken,
So there's something to it.
there's I've only seen one person in my life with gray eyes, and that was that lady. And they were so gray that I stopped. It's different. I've never ever seen an eye color close to that.
Kind of a slate color, almost a slight slate blue gray color.
Yep.
Yep.
I have never. It's not. When you look, you're not going to mistake them for blue eyes. You're not going to mistake them for green eyes. I stopped in my tracks, and I just did what I usually do. I walk. I make eye contact with people and nod. Sometimes I speak, howdy, how you doing, whatever. Sometimes I don't. And when I locked eyes with her, I don't. I don't know if I poker faced it good. I don't know, because when I locked eyes with her and I realized what I was looking at, and I nodded it. I didn't. I don't think I said anything. And I had to stop. I said, I cannot walk on this trail and not talk to that woman. I
Yeah.
could not. And in my mind, if you do that, you're missing out. And
Yeah.
so I asked a question, what are y'all doing? And I think she knew. I mean, when she looked at me and said that, it was a knowing look. She smiled with her eyes. She looked me right in the eyes, and she knew I didn't understand. I still don't. But anyway, I appreciate that. Anything we find. You've taught me some things, and uh, I don't know what it all means, but when you go back and you look at people, that's the thing I want to know about people, because reading those letters, you're getting what's going on in their head, how they're thinking, what their worries are, what their worries aren't, how educated or not they are. They might be very smart, but couldn't write. Some of the words wasn't
Yeah.
spelled exactly right, or it was how they pronounced them back then.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. So it help. I guess what I'm saying, it helps to know, like, okay, this person had the same traits you did. They ended up in a mental institution. That's good information to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
You don't want to do what they did. You want to do something different.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like similar to a medical history.
Yeah.
Um, are you more susceptible to this or whatever? And it's surprisingly how history repeats itself over and over and over and over with people. I believe I had a teacher one time ask, "Was it nature or nurture?" Um, I think it's a little of both and in between. You can have some people are born tainted and ain't nothing you can do to help them, and some of them are born good as gold, and their environment can mess them up. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It is a combination.
church keys would be, if you ever start getting merchandise for the channel. We have the Squatch and Holler church keys. Oh my God! Did you just spit?
I coughed, but
Okay, I thought you.
about the same time that I heard that.
Hey, y'all, Southern goodbye. We're gonna get off here. Y'all go watch what's tonight. What is tonight?
Church keys for
Monday night.
merch.
I'm sure there's several shows on tonight, so y'all
Hey,
might
did you
see.
see
Yeah,
this little plug this morning, very early this morning? This was like 4 o'clock this morning. I barely missed it, but Selena from Southern Belle
yeah,
Bigfoot,
yeah.
she did a live at 4 o'clock because she was seeing, and she filmed it. She was seeing these orbs out over the lake in front of her house.
Really,
Yeah,
I need to go check
and
that out.
yeah, check that out. She filmed that live at 4 o'clock because she said she wanted some witnesses to see
Yeah.
it,
Could
live.
you see it? Could you see it on the
Yeah,
camera?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
You
got it.
could see them.
Well, you know
Yeah,
what I
there
do
were
to fix it.
three of them. There were three of them, and then they came together and like they merged together for a while and got a little bit bigger, and then not like they split apart again.
Where's she at? She's in Alabama, I
She's
know,
in
but
Gadsden.
Gaston. That's
Yeah,
not
and this was on a lake up there where she's living at, and the Coosa River, forms that lake there where she's living. But yeah, I just happened to think about that. I called it right. She had already closed it out when I saw it, but a little later I saw it.
I'm
But
gonna go
yeah,
check that out.
yeah, I meant to mention that to you so you could check that out.
What's the name of your channel?
Native Voices and Lands.
Y'all go.
Wing
Y'all know what
Clan
to do.
Kill.
Go subscribe. Um, I love the type of videos where there's not a, how do I say this? There's just information, and it's like being there beside him. Being there at the place, but you went in a museum, and I watched most of that. Um, you have any plans to? Are you going to focus on Southern Alabama, or I
The
think it's
whole
cool.
the whole area and
Yeah.
anywhere I go.
Okay. Sounds good. That's
Yeah. If
well,
I
I
go to
definitely
Oklahoma, I'll be doing something in Oklahoma.
good.
If I go to Tennessee, I'll be doing something up there, Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, wherever.
Okay.
So
That'll be fun. That's the kind of
yeah,
stuff I like.
I've just got to it's just getting my feet wet.
Right.
I've got a lot to learn. About
Yeah. If you
new
have any
equipment to
questions,
get and all that. I appreciate it.
yeah. If you have any
Yeah,
questions,
and I have a ton of questions already today.
if I can't answer it, I'm pointing in another direction. Another person that can't answer it probably.
Because
But
I want it to
but
be good and informational,
right,
but at the same time, I don't want it to be boring and
right.
just.
And we talked about the little bitty mics for the phone,
Yeah.
and that you're talking about like $20. You can get two of them,
Hmm.
and you can have both charged up. If one runs down, you can switch them out. I was shocked at. You don't have to get expensive ones. I think mine was 20 something dollars for two, and the sound quality from the phone, match it up to your phone, is amazing. It's that noise canceling. So if you're inside like a museum, like we talked about, and there's people talking in the background, it'll cut that mostly out. So I think you got something good going because I want to learn. I'm all about learning. So
Yeah, and if anybody has, excuse me, if anybody has any suggestions or things that ideas or things that you particularly want to know about or interested in, or whether I know it or not, I can research and give a little information to provide, and that's
well,
why I'm doing it, is to share information with people that are interested.
yeah, and
So
there are a lot of people interested, but they don't know how to ask.
yeah. So
You know what I
anybody
mean?
has any ideas or specific questions, just message me, and I'll try to, if I don't know the answer, I'm not just going to shoot the bull, make
Right.
something up or anything.
Yeah. Find out and
But
talk about it
it
later.
may sound like it sometimes, but
That's all right. And hey, one more time, people in chat, where are we going to subscribe to? Ken's channel, and what was the other one? I forgot the name of it already. Heather, you remember it? Anybody write it down? What's the
that
what's the one, the troll that got kicked out of chat earlier?
I've already forgot that
I
too.
have to. I was looking for an ink pen. I knew I'd forget it. But if any of y'all remember, send it to me, messenger or
It may
something.
not even been legit. It may have been
Oh yeah, I don't. Maybe that's the
one
only
of
word
them
he knew in
bots.
English. It could have been somebody from another country, and that's the only word he knew from English from watching Miley Cyrus videos.
Could have been.
So
Work
all
it
right,
while you work it while you twerk it, or whatever
that's
they
right.
say.
Yep, yep. That's that's another story for another time, another channel. Right, Ken.
Oh,
Thank you, sir.
Miss Farby's got a question.
Oh,
Um,
Mountville.
we're talking about visiting Moundville, South Texas. I've been to Moundville, Miss Farby, several times, and in fact, I I need to get back up there sometime. But I have been there several times, and I've had a lot of really special experiences there, and I also know a few people that have worked there at Moundville through the years, and
Where was the mounds you had the amazing video at of the dancing?
well, it was there.
Was I
It's
not
a
supposed to say that? I
well,
sorry.
I mean, it happened.
Yeah,
It happened. That's where it was at. I've been many, many times and never seen anything like that.
right.
But this was
That
just a
was beyond cool.
once in a lifetime experience, something
I
like that. But
dang.
there's also the horned serpent, the great horned serpent or the great winged serpent that goes between dimensions, because you have as far as you're talking about the Mississippian period, way back, you have the upper world, and then you have our world, and then you have the underworld, which is under the water, caves, and things like that of that nature. But that serpent, the horned serpent, you know, can go in between,
Mm.
and um, that comes there from the Black Warrior. There's also another one in the Coosa River, the Coosa River serpent. So, you're talking more along the lines of Nessie, you know, Alabama's Nessie. Well, we got two. We got one in the Black Warrior, one in the Coosa.
Will
And there
you
have been sightings. There have been sightings. And I know someone that has had a sighting at the Black Warrior.
will you send me that and message both of those, please?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Sure
Yeah.
will.
I know somebody that if they don't know about it, will be excited to know about it. So,
Yep. And
Court Vision podcast. Diane come in sliding there at the last second. Thank
there
you,
you go.
Heather. Write this down. Soon as I get off here, I'm going to Court Vision podcast and I'm subscribing. And
And another good place to go, Oakville. That's up there not far from Greg's. And
what's it called?
Oakville,
Okay.
Oakville Mounds. That's up closer to Greg's. That's another good place to go. I
Why
think they
don't
have a museum there and all. I've been there. It's been a good many years, but I've been there a couple times.
Why don't they teach us that in school? Because
They're
I mean,
teaching less now than they ever have.
right.
They've cut a lot of stuff out about Native history. I
I
don't
know that
know.
Tennessee
In
history
Alabama, anyway,
in
they have
Tennessee
cut a
history in the
lot of.
seventh grade was kind of generic and bland.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of really wasn't. It was a history class, but it was more facts and figures and not
Hmm.
telling you where you come from. You know what people did before and all that.
Yep. Exactly.
Window,
Exactly.
window, don't do some church keys. All right,
uh,
all right, y'all.
yeah, 15 minutes from Greg's, Oakville.
All right, if I don't get off here and go subscribe, I'm gonna forget. So
Yeah.
thank y'all. Appreciate it, Ken.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, Roger.
Yes, sir. Anytime. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Good to see
See y'all.
everybody in the chat.
Bye bye.
Love you all.